The night sky above Earth was calm, painted with countless stars that had watched humanity for ages. People in every corner of the world lived their lives as usual. Some hurried through crowded streets, some sat quietly at home, while others gazed up at the heavens without knowing that something extraordinary was about to happen. Then the stars shifted. At first, it looked like meteors burning through the sky. Trails of light crossed above the cities and villages. Children pointed upward, shouting with excitement, while adults stared in confusion. Soon the trails slowed, becoming larger and brighter until shapes emerged. These were not falling rocks. They were ships, massive ships descending silently from the heavens. Every continent saw them. Towering vessels of silver and dark metal hung in the atmosphere as if they had always belonged there. They did not roar or thunder like rockets. They moved gracefully, their presence both beautiful and unsettling. Some people screamed, some prayed, and others raised their phones to record history. Across the globe, television screens and live streams filled with images of the sky dominated by alien machines. The ships did not attack. Instead, beams of soft light stretched from them to the ground. In major cities, figures appeared, stepping through those columns of light. They were tall, with slender frames wrapped in shining armor that seemed to ripple like water. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their voices carried without the need for machines. "We are the Karen," they declared in many tongues at once, as if their words were translated by thought itself. "We come as guardians. We come as protectors. Fear not, people of Earth. You are under our shield." The crowd in every city froze. People stared at these beings who looked at once majestic and strange. The Karen stood with calm certainty, their posture upright and their tone filled with authority. It was as if they had spoken the same speech on countless worlds before. On the steps of the United Nations building, one of the beings stood taller than the guards around him. His silver armor reflected the flashing cameras of reporters. Behind him, more Karen waited silently. The leader lifted a hand, and the noise of the crowd seemed to soften. "You live in a fragile world," he said. "Your species is young. Many dangers travel the stars, dangers you cannot fight alone. Civilizations greater than yours have been destroyed. But you have been chosen. We will guard your skies. We will protect your people. This is our promise." Some clapped with relief. Some cheered, believing a new golden age was at hand. Others looked uneasy, whispering to one another. Was this protection, or was it something else? Around the world, leaders gathered quickly. They spoke with the aliens in long halls filled with translators and advisors. Yet no translator was needed, for the Karen spoke every language as if it were their own. They repeated their promise: Earth was now safe under their watch. They would share their shield, their medicine, and their wisdom. Humanity only had to accept. And still, as the speeches continued, something unusual happened. The people of Earth did not fall to their knees. They did not cry out for salvation. They did not cling to these visitors as helpless children. Instead, many only listened in silence. Their faces carried expressions not of desperation, but of patience. In a small town in Africa, farmers watched the ships high above their fields. One man laughed quietly and said, "Protect us? They think we are weak." His neighbors nodded, some smiling. In the crowded streets of Asia, merchants kept working while watching the strange ships through gaps in the rooftops. "They look serious," one woman said. "But they do not know us yet." In Europe, children drew pictures of the alien ships with bright colors, while their teachers shook their heads in wonder. "If they came to protect us," one teacher said softly, "they may be surprised by what they find here." The Karen expected fear. They expected gratitude, even worship. Instead, they saw calm faces, small smiles, and eyes that held something they could not name. Night spread across the globe again, but the skies were no longer the same. The massive vessels remained, hanging above like new stars. Some people could not sleep, wondering what tomorrow would bring. Others slept soundly, as if nothing had changed. For the first time in their long journey across the galaxy, the Karen felt something unfamiliar. They had declared themselves guardians of many worlds before, but never had a world reacted like this. Humanity did not resist, yet it did not yield. They had promised to protect Earth. But Earth, silent and smiling, seemed to hold a secret. Morning light spread across Earth, yet the alien ships still hovered above every horizon. They glowed softly in the sky, neither moving nor threatening. For the people below, the strange sight was becoming part of daily life. Children on their way to school pointed at the massive shapes. Farmers worked in their fields beneath their shadows. Workers glanced up during breaks, then returned to their tasks. The world was changing, but not in the way the visitors expected. Inside grand halls of government, the Karen met with human leaders. Their tall figures stood in silence until questions were asked, and then they answered with steady voices. They explained that Earth had caught the attention of forces beyond human imagination. There are hunters in the galaxy, one Karen spoke to a room filled with presidents, prime ministers, and generals. They roam the stars, searching for worlds rich with life. They destroy what they cannot control. Your world is marked. Without our shield, you will not survive their coming. The hall grew still. Leaders exchanged glances. The words carried weight, but not panic. They had heard warnings before, though never from beings of another world. Some scribbled notes, some listened with narrowed eyes. The Karen continued without pause. We offer protection. A barrier around your skies. Weapons that can cut through the strongest of enemies. Medicines to cure your worst diseases. Knowledge beyond centuries of your science. All of this we give, if you accept our guardianship. The words sounded grand, even generous, yet there was a tone in their voices, firm and final. The Karen spoke not as friends, but as caretakers offering shelter to fragile children. Across the world, news spread quickly. On screens and in newspapers, headlines declared the promise of the Karen. Earth offered protection, read one. Aliens bring medicine and weapons, read another. Crowds gathered in city squares, discussing the news. Some cheered, saying it was a gift beyond measure. Others frowned, asking why strangers from the sky cared so much. In a small cafe, two students debated over steaming cups of tea. Do you not understand? This is a chance, said the first, leaning forward. They will cure illness, end hunger, make us strong. The second shook her head. No one gives such gifts without a reason. They speak as if we cannot defend ourselves. But we are not helpless. Across oceans and continents, similar voices rose. Some dreamed of wonders. Some whispered doubts. Yet no matter where the conversation began, a quiet smile seemed to follow. Humanity did not tremble. The Karen, puzzled by this reaction, studied Earth closely. They expected fear, but instead they found calmness. They expected loud cries for salvation, but instead found measured questions. At night, in their shining vessels above the clouds, they shared their confusion. They do not act like the others, one said. They should be begging for our shield, another replied. They should be desperate. They are not desperate, the leader answered. They are waiting. But waiting for what? On Earth, leaders continued to speak with the Karen. In one meeting, the alien leader raised his hand and projected images into the air. Strange beasts of metal and fire appeared, tearing through alien cities on distant worlds. The pictures showed destruction, ruin, and silence. These were worlds greater than yours, he said. They believed they were strong. They were wrong. Alone, you will fall as they did. With us, you will endure. The images faded, leaving the room in silence. Cameras captured every moment, sending it live to millions watching around the world. For a brief moment, even those who doubted felt a chill. The promise sounded less like a gift and more like a warning. But then, the responses came. In a crowded hall in South America, a farmer stood before reporters. "They show us pictures of fallen worlds," he said calmly. "Do they not know the pictures we carry in our own memory? We have seen our cities burn, we have buried our dead, and we still stand. We do not fall so easily." In Asia, an old soldier watching the broadcast shook his head. "They believe survival is given by others. No, survival is earned." In Africa, a teacher told her students, "Listen carefully. They promise to guard us, but have they asked what we already know about guarding ourselves?" And in North America, leaders gave a formal reply. The words were polite, filled with thanks, yet sharp beneath the surface. "We hear your promise," they said. "We see your strength. But do not mistake our silence for weakness. Humanity has always stood when tested." The Karen listened, but they did not understand. They could not grasp why Earth did not rush to accept their shield. They thought of the galaxies filled with broken worlds that had once smiled before being crushed. Why then did this world smile still? From the highest mountains to the deepest cities, people whispered to one another with the same quiet confidence. Humanity had faced storms, wars, hunger, and fire. They had carried scars, but they had never surrendered. The promise of the Karen sounded less like salvation and more like a story they had already lived. The guardians from the sky had promised to protect Earth. Yet Earth, standing firm beneath their ships, carried an answer in every calm gaze. The answer was not spoken aloud, but it was clear: protection was not something they waited for, it was something they already knew. The days passed, and the alien ships remained in the sky like silent guardians. Their silver shapes floated above oceans and mountains, never moving far, never leaving. Some people grew used to them, as if they were strange new clouds. Others still looked up with unease. The world was alive with questions, yet answers were few. The Karen continued to speak with leaders and scholars. They held meetings inside bright chambers filled with strange light. They repeated the same words: Earth was in danger, humanity could not survive alone, and their protection was the only way forward. But with every meeting, the silence of humanity grew heavier. In one hall, filled with generals and scientists, a Karen leader spoke. His tall frame glowed faintly, and his voice carried across the room. "You are clever, yes. You build weapons, yes. But these are toys compared to what waits beyond the stars. You may fire your rockets, you may launch your machines, but against the predators of the galaxy, you are nothing. Alone, you will fall." The humans did not shout or panic. Instead, a woman with gray hair raised her hand and asked, "If these predators are so near, why have they not attacked us already?" The alien paused, as if the question had not been asked before. "Because we are here now," he answered. "And before you came," she asked again. "What stopped them then?" The Karen leader did not reply at once. His glowing eyes narrowed, but no answer came quickly. The humans exchanged calm glances, while the aliens struggled to explain what should have been simple. In another meeting across the ocean, the Karen showed weapons of shining energy. Blades of light hummed in their hands. Small spheres hovered in the air and then exploded into harmless bursts of color to demonstrate power. They promised these tools could make Earth strong, but only if humans accepted their guidance. A general leaned forward and asked, "Why would you give such power to us? What do you ask in return?" "We ask nothing," the Karen said firmly. The general's lips curved into a faint smile. "No one asks nothing." The Karen looked at him in silence, unsure how to answer such a simple doubt. Meanwhile, in towns and villages, ordinary people discussed the strange visitors. Some were impressed by the glowing weapons and tall figures. Others shook their heads. They call us weak, said a fisherman in a coastal town. But every storm has tried to take our boats, and still we sail. Weak? No. They say they will cure our sickness, said a mother in a crowded market. But do they not see how far we have come already? My daughter lives because of the medicine we made ourselves. They want us to believe we cannot stand without them, said a miner deep underground. But we have stood on our own for longer than they can imagine. Across the world, stories like these grew louder. Humanity listened to the Karen's promise, but their words rang hollow when compared to the memory of Earth's long struggles. The aliens were confused. On other worlds, their promise had been welcomed with open arms. People had cried, begged, and clung to their ships as saviors. But here, on Earth, there was only patience and quiet questions. One night, aboard their shining vessel, a group of Karen gathered in council. Their tall forms circled a glowing table that showed images of Earth's cities, rivers, and skies. They do not understand the danger, one said. No, another replied. They understand too much. They smile when we speak of destruction, said a third. Why do they smile? The leader of the council stood in silence, watching the glowing Earth. Perhaps they know something we do not. Back on the planet, the people continued with their lives. Markets stayed busy, schools stayed open, and farmers planted seeds. The shadow of the alien ships did not stop them. If anything, it reminded them that no matter who watched from the sky, Earth remained their own. In a small classroom, a teacher asked her students what they thought of the visitors. One child raised his hand and said, "They think we are weak. But they do not know how hard it is to be human." The teacher smiled softly. Yes, that is what they do not know. The Karen believed their promise was enough to bring gratitude. Instead, they faced doubt at every turn. Humanity did not scream, nor did it kneel. It simply asked questions, quiet but sharp, that pierced the armor of their certainty. The aliens promised protection. Yet the humans, calm and steady, seemed to say with their silence, "We never asked for it." And as the stars watched from above, the first cracks of doubt appeared not in humanity, but in the hearts of the Karen themselves. The ships of the Karen still drifted across the skies, unmoving yet always present. They looked like watchful eyes, silver and dark, resting above the clouds. To the visitors, they were symbols of safety. To humanity, they were reminders of a question that had not been answered: did Earth truly need protection, or had Earth already been protecting itself? In the heart of a great city, leaders gathered once more to speak with the Karen. The room was vast, lined with flags of many nations. Cameras watched from every corner, sending the meeting across the world. The alien envoy stood in the center, tall and glowing with quiet confidence. "Your history is filled with pain," the Karen said. "Wars, disasters, hunger, and disease. You have suffered more than most. That is why you must let us guide you. Without help, you cannot survive what is coming." For a moment, the hall was silent. Then an elder among the leaders stood. His voice was calm but strong, carrying across the room. "You speak as though we have never known struggle," he said. "But struggle is the story of humanity itself. Do you not see that it is the reason we are still here?" The envoy tilted his head, uncertain. The man continued. "When fire swept across our cities, we rebuilt. When hunger starved our fields, we found new ways to grow. When sickness struck, we searched until we found cures. When war tore our nations apart, we stood again. Every time, we rose. Not because of others, but because of ourselves." The hall was quiet. The cameras captured his words and sent them to every home and every screen across the planet. People listened in factories, schools, and farms. Many nodded, for they remembered their own stories of survival. In a small village in the desert, an old woman sat by her fire. She had lived through famine and seen her people recover. Yes, she whispered to her grandchildren. This is who we are. In a city that had once been broken by war, young workers paused as they watched the broadcast. We carry scars, one said. But the scars are proof that we endured. The Karen envoy frowned, as if the words were difficult to understand. But the threats beyond your stars are greater than any you have faced. They will not give you time to recover. They will not allow you to rebuild. A woman among the leaders stood. She had lived through floods and earthquakes, seen her people lose everything, and yet still return stronger. Her voice was calm. Every challenge we have faced taught us something. Every disaster shaped us. You see weakness, but we see strength. You look at our scars and think they show failure. We look at them and see memory. Our memory is our shield. The Karen fell silent. For the first time, their certainty wavered. They had expected fear, but what they saw instead was pride, quiet, steady pride in a history written by survival. Outside the halls, across the world, people shared their own stories. A farmer told how his family survived when storms destroyed his crops. A soldier told how his comrades stood together in the darkest days. A doctor spoke of long nights fighting to save lives with only the tools at hand. Every story carried the same truth: humanity had never been helpless, not even in its worst hours. The Karen gathered later in their shining ship, speaking in low tones. They call their pain a strength, one said. They call their memory a shield, another added. The leader of the Karen Council looked down at Earth glowing below. Perhaps it is, he said softly. On the ground, life went on. Children played in streets beneath the silver ships. Workers continued their tasks, and families shared meals as they always had. To them, the alien presence was strange, but it was not enough to stop the rhythm of life. One night, as stars filled the sky, a storyteller spoke to a group of listeners in a small village. His voice was quiet, but every ear was fixed on him. Long ago, he said, the world shook with fire and storm. Many thought it was the end. But it was not the end. It was the beginning of a lesson that nothing can end us unless we allow it. The sky may fall, the seas may rise, but humanity will stand. The listeners nodded, their faces calm. They did not look up at the ships. They looked only at one another, knowing that their strength came not from above, but from within. The Karen had come with promises of protection, believing that Earth was fragile. But the more they listened, the more they saw something they had never seen before. Earth carried its own kind of power, not in glowing weapons, but in the memory of every struggle it had survived. And in that memory, there was no fear. The calm of Earth's skies changed one morning. Strange signals appeared on the satellites, and alarms sounded in command centers around the world. A hostile fleet was approaching from the stars. Ships of black metal and red light moved in formations unlike anything humanity had seen. The Karen, still hovering above, raised their weapons, ready to protect the planet they had sworn to guard. People on the ground watched the sky, their eyes wide with fear and wonder. Yet there was no panic, only focus. Humans moved quickly, activating systems that had been quietly built for decades. Hidden stations, secret fleets, and long-forgotten defense mechanisms stirred to life. Earth was ready. On the deck of a spaceport in South America, a general watched the approaching ships. She gave orders calmly, as if speaking to old friends. Satellites shifted, communication arrays hummed, and fleets of drones and small spacecraft prepared for action. Her eyes did not flicker with fear. She smiled slightly. They think we need saving, she said to her aide. We will show them otherwise. The hostile ships drew closer. From orbit, the Karen could see the humans acting without hesitation. Rockets launched from hidden silos, cutting through the blackness of space. Drones swarmed like a silver cloud, moving faster than the eye could follow. Satellites formed patterns that created shields and weapons far stronger than what the aliens had expected. The Karen looked at one another, stunned. Their plan to protect Earth was unnecessary. Humanity did not wait for help, they were already in motion, precise and coordinated. A scientist in Europe monitored the enemy fleet's communications. "They are advanced," she said. "But they underestimate us." Her team worked together with calm determination, rerouting energy to defenses, redirecting drones, and firing lasers that pushed back the invading ships. The Black and Red Fleet fired, their weapons lighting up the night sky. Cities glimmered as beams struck the atmosphere, but shields of human design held strong. Rockets intercepted missiles before they reached the surface. Automated systems responded with speed no alien eye could match. In the Pacific, a small island base launched hidden torpedoes into orbit. They collided with enemy craft, detonating with a bright flash of light. The hostile fleet faltered, confused by Earth's sudden resistance. For the Karen, it was a moment of amazement. Humanity did not wait. Humanity acted. From space, the Karen observed as humans moved with strategy and courage. Fleets coordinated with satellite networks. Lasers fired in patterns that anticipated enemy movements. Drones moved like swarms of silver lightning, striking hard and retreating before the enemy could respond. A young pilot in North America guided her ship through the enemy lines. Her voice was calm over the comms. "We have them in our sights. Push forward." Around the world, similar voices echoed. Human hands controlled machines, built by human minds, executing plans that could rival the Karen's own. The hostile fleet began to retreat. Their ships faltered, confused, and damaged. Humans did not cheer, but neither did they stop. Every move was precise, every action measured. They had not fought for glory, they had fought because survival was part of who they were. The Karen lowered their weapons. They had expected to defend humanity, but they realized that Earth needed no guardians. The humans themselves had become the shield. In a quiet command center, a soldier said, "They thought we could not stand alone. Look at them now." Across the world, other voices echoed similar words. Humanity had proven itself not fragile, but formidable. As the hostile ships fled into the distance, the skies of Earth grew calm once more. People returned to their homes, their work, their families. The test was over, yet no one celebrated loudly. They had done what was needed, as they always had. The Karen, watching from above, felt awe and a deep respect. The leader of the Karen Council spoke softly. "They do not need us. They never did." On the ground, a child looked up at the retreating fleet and said to his friend, "We are stronger than they thought." The teacher in a small village smiled. "We always have been," she said. For the first time, the Karen truly understood what humanity carried within: resilience, courage, and the ability to face danger without waiting for rescue. Their promise to protect Earth had been offered in good faith, yet it was Earth that had become the protector. And as the stars returned to their quiet watch, the humans smiled not in pride or arrogance, but in calm confidence. They had faced the test, and the galaxy had learned that Earth was a world not easily conquered. After the battle, the skies above Earth returned to their calm silver glow. The hostile fleet had vanished into the depths of space, and cities began to settle back into routine. Yet the Karen, hovering silently above, could not forget what they had witnessed. For the first time, they felt uncertainty. Their promise had been to protect humanity, yet humanity had proven itself without their intervention. Every maneuver, every strike, every defense had been executed perfectly. Humans had acted not out of fear, but from skill, intelligence, and courage born of countless trials. Inside their largest vessel, the Karen Council gathered. The leader, taller and brighter than the others, spoke slowly. "We thought we were offering protection to the weak," he said. "We assumed this world needed our shield. Yet they did not wait. They did not beg. They did not falter. They stood, and they fought, and they prevailed. Another Karen frowned. But they are still young. They have not seen the worst the galaxy can offer. They are stronger than we ever imagined, the leader replied. Strength does not come only from weapons or shields. It comes from memory, from unity, and from the will to survive. They carry all of that. The Karen looked down at the blue planet, its forests, oceans, and cities shining in the morning light. The people below moved with the same quiet determination they had shown for centuries. Even in the face of the greatest threat they had ever known, humanity had remained calm, focused, and precise. Back on Earth, leaders met to discuss the aftermath. They shared information, repaired damages, and analyzed the enemy fleet's tactics. There was no celebration, only understanding. They had passed a test not for recognition, but because it was necessary for survival. In a classroom in Africa, a teacher asked her students what they had learned from the events above. One child raised his hand. "We do not need someone to protect us," he said. "We can protect ourselves." The teacher nodded. "Yes. And never forget it." On the coasts of Europe, fishermen repaired their boats and shared stories of how they had watched the skies while continuing their work. In every city, every town, and every village, people spoke quietly of how Earth had defended itself. The Karen observed in silence. Their promise had been offered in hope, yet it had not been required. For centuries, they had protected worlds that begged for help, but Earth was different. This world had an inner strength that could not be measured by technology alone. One of the Karens spoke softly. "They smiled when we warned them. They smiled when we offered help. They smiled when we showed the enemy fleet." Why did they smile? The leader of the council looked thoughtful. Because they knew who they are. They remembered their history. They remembered every challenge and every victory. They carry the lessons of survival in their hearts. No shield from the sky can match the shield they have built themselves. Meanwhile, on the ground, life continued. Children played beneath the silver ships, unaware of the discussions in the alien vessels above. Farmers planted their fields, and workers repaired the machines that had defended the cities. Humanity moved forward with quiet confidence, not boasting, not arrogant, but calm and sure of its abilities. In South America, a young engineer watched the sky. "They thought we needed them," he said to his colleague. "We did not. We never did." His colleague smiled. "We have always been our own protectors. That is the power they cannot see until now." The Karen began to understand that their role would need to change. They had come as guardians, offering protection and guidance. Yet the humans had shown that they were not wards, not fragile beings. They were equals in courage, strategy, and willpower. The leader of the Karen Council made a decision. "We will not force our protection upon them. We will offer partnership, not guardianship. We will learn from them as they learn from us. This world has something we have never seen before, true strength born from struggle." From the ships above, the Karen lowered their weapons. For the first time, they did not watch as protectors. They watched as observers, and slowly, respect filled their hearts. On Earth, humans looked up at the ships, not with fear or awe, but with calm understanding. They had faced their first test, and the galaxy had witnessed it. They smiled, not to boast, but to show what it meant to stand firm, to fight, and to survive by one's own hand. The Karen realized something vital: a promise of protection was not what this world needed. What humanity needed and what it always had was trust in itself. And with that revelation, the guardians from the stars began to see Earth not as a fragile planet to save, but as a strong world to respect and to walk alongside into the endless reaches of the galaxy. The skies above Earth were quiet once more. The hostile fleet had disappeared, and the silver ships of the Karen floated calmly, observing the planet below. For the first time, the aliens felt something unfamiliar: admiration. They had come to protect a fragile world, yet what they had witnessed was not weakness. It was strength, born from history, struggle, and determination. Inside the largest Karen vessel, the council gathered. The leader spoke first, his voice gentle but filled with thought. "We were wrong to assume this world needed our guardianship," he said. "We believed humanity would require our shield. Instead, they showed us a truth we did not expect. They do not need saving. They have always been their own protectors." Another Karen spoke. "They are fearless not because they do not see danger, but because they have learned to face it. We cannot give them courage, they already possess it. We cannot give them strategy, they have always made their own plans." The council fell silent for a moment, watching Earth's blue oceans and green forests glow under the sun. From above, the humans moved through their daily lives. Children ran through fields, farmers tended crops, teachers guided students, and workers repaired cities. The planet breathed with life, steady and resilient. The leader continued, "We will not act as guardians. We will act as partners. We will offer knowledge and assistance when requested, but never impose our will. Humanity must remain free, as it always has been." On the surface, humans noticed the change in the Karen. Their movements were slower, less commanding, more thoughtful. For centuries, humans had been watched as if they were fragile. Now, the visitors observed as equals, with respect. In Europe, a scientist spoke at a global conference. "The Karen have seen what we can do," she said. "They understand that we are not helpless. We do not need their protection, but we can learn from their knowledge. Together, we can explore the stars." Across the oceans, in Africa, a teacher told her students, "The sky no longer threatens us. These beings came with power, but now they come with respect. Remember this feeling. Respect is earned, and we have shown it with our actions." The Karen began to communicate openly with Earth's leaders, not as rulers, but as collaborators. They shared technologies for clean energy, transportation, and space travel. They offered advice about distant systems and threats, but all decisions were made together. Humanity did not bow. Humanity did not yield. They listened, discussed, and chose wisely. In a small village, children gathered around a glowing Karen figure. It spoke gently, showing them images of distant worlds and new possibilities. The children asked questions eagerly, their eyes wide with wonder. The Karen smiled, realizing that education and curiosity could be shared without control. A pilot in South America guided a spacecraft alongside a Karen ship, testing new methods of space navigation. Both learned from one another, each respecting the other's skills. The pilot laughed as the Karen ship executed a maneuver she had never seen before. "You are learning from us," she said. "And you from us," replied the alien with a voice that carried thought more than sound. On the coasts, fishermen spoke quietly of the past events. "We fought and we survived," one said. "They thought we needed saving. We only needed respect. Now they see it." In cities and towns, people walked beneath the silver ships without fear. They went about their lives, confident in the knowledge that they could defend their planet. Yet they also knew that knowledge shared with allies could make the world better. Humanity had faced its first test and passed with grace. The leader of the Karen Council addressed his people in a private chamber. "We have learned something remarkable. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is patient. It is built from memory, courage, and the will to endure. Earth carries all of this." Below, a child looked up at the sky and whispered to her friend, "We are not alone, but we are strong." And so, the Karen extended their hand in partnership, not dominion. Humanity accepted, not as servants, but as equals. Together, they began to explore space, sharing knowledge and learning from each other. The stars no longer seemed threatening but full of possibilities. The promise to protect Earth had been offered and quietly refused. Humanity smiled, not in arrogance, but in understanding. They had proven that they could stand alone, yet they could also stand together with allies who respected their strength. As the sun set, silver ships glowed softly above the forests, mountains, and oceans. The Karen had learned humility. Humans had learned cooperation. And the galaxy had witnessed a truth that would echo across the stars: true strength comes not from who guards you, but from the courage to protect yourself. Earth had survived, and it had done more than survive. It had earned respect, and in that respect lay the beginning of a future that stretched beyond the sky.